Here's a book that was published in 2003 called The Return of the Unicorns, The Natural History and Conservation of the Greater One-Horned Rhinoceros. On the front cover of this book, there's a picture of some rhinoceros, and this book is called The Return of the Unicorns. This book was published in 2003. You can buy it on Amazon.com for $10. Here's a creature which scientists today refer to as the giant unicorn. It's an extinct species of a giant one-horned rhinoceros called Elasmotherium sibericum, and scientists today call it the giant unicorn. As a matter of fact, this is the creature which creation scientists like Ken Ham believe to be the unicorn that's being mentioned in the Bible. Ken Ham is the president of Answers in Genesis and the founder of the Creation Museum. And this is the creature which he believes to be the unicorn that's being mentioned in the Bible when God is questioning Job and says, will the unicorn be willing to serve you? Will he stay in your stall? Can you hitch a unicorn to a plow, or will he plow the valleys behind you? Since he's so strong, can you trust him, or will you leave your labor to him? Can you trust him to bring home your grain and gather it to your threshing floor? The question is, though, why is it that some of the Latin verses say rhinoceros, but then others say unicornus? Well, in Psalm 92 verse 10, according to the context of the scripture, it's talking about a one-horned animal. It says phrases like, my horn, and the horn. That's why it uses the word unicornus, because it's talking about a one-horned animal. However, in Deuteronomy 33, according to the context of the scripture, it's talking about a two-horned animal. Moses is speaking here about Joseph, and he says that Joseph's horns are like the horns of unicorns. And then he goes on to say, they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. Basically, Moses is saying here that Joseph's two horns are Joseph's two sons. Ephraim and Manasseh are Joseph's two sons. You see, in the King James Bible, when it says unicorns plural with an S, there's actually a marginal note. And if you look up that marginal note, it says that in the Hebrew, it's actually a unicorn singular. In the Hebrew text, the word being translated unicorn is singular, but the word being translated horns is actually plural possessive. So it's basically saying that these plural horns are being possessed by this singular unicorn, which would mean that it's not actually a unicorn. That's why the verse in Latin doesn't say unicornus, but rather it says rhinocerotis, talking about the two-horned rhinoceros, which actually makes perfect sense because the two-horned rhinoceros has a larger horn and then it has a smaller horn. You see, back in Genesis 48, Jacob prophesied that Ephraim would be greater than Manasseh. He said that Manasseh shall be great, but that Ephraim shall be greater. He said that Manasseh shall become a people, but that Ephraim shall become a multitude of nations. And then later on in Deuteronomy 33, Moses is confirming that Ephraim really is greater than Manasseh, because he says the 10,000s of Ephraim, but the thousands of Manasseh. He's saying that Ephraim consists of tens of thousands of people, but Manasseh only has thousands of people, thus confirming that Jacob's prophecy really did come true. Ephraim really is greater than Manasseh, just like Jacob prophesied. And in order to paint a picture of who Joseph is, he says that Joseph's horns are like the horns of the rhinoceros, the two-horned rhinoceros, which has a larger horn and a smaller horn, the larger horn being Ephraim and the smaller horn being Manasseh. So it is true that the Old King James Version of the Bible has a mistake in it, but the mistake is not that it mentions a mythical horse-like animal with a single horn on its head. The mistake is that it mentions a one-horned rhinoceros when some scripture verses, according to the context, are actually talking about a two-horned rhinoceros.